Coming to you live from the Interaction Media Studio in Morgantown. Welcome to Positively West Virginia. I'm your host, Jim Matuga. Today, we're going to visit with Samantha Haddix. She's the owner of Haddix Liquidations, located in Nutter Fort, West Virginia. Of course, that's in Harrison County. But first, a little bit about our mission here at Positively West Virginia. Every week, we talk with West Virginia business leaders and share their success stories with people just like you in West Virginia and across the country. When we first started this podcast project back in 2017, one of the things we set out to do was to encourage and inspire our listeners with positive business stories from right here in the Mountain State. To date, we've produced more than 200 episodes, and Positively West Virginia is now a 501c3 nonprofit organization. You can learn more about our mission, of course, of promoting small business and entrepreneurship in West Virginia at positivelywv.com. You know, I get to see so many positive things happening in West Virginia business every single day that a lot of people, quite frankly, never get to hear about. So our team at Interaction Media and Positively West Virginia are working to change that with this show. So people realize you don't have to leave West Virginia to find great business opportunities that are right here in our state. We want to encourage people to stay here, to move here, and build great companies and organizations right here in West Virginia. All of our guests are people who are actually getting that done day in and day out. And I'm convinced we can all learn from their experiences and, most importantly, their stories. Once again, our guest today is Samantha Haddix. She's the owner of Haddix Liquidations in Nutter Fort, West Virginia. Samantha, thanks for being on the show today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you on the podcast to share your story this week and learn more about your company. Samantha Haddix co-owns Haddix Liquidations alongside her husband, Jason. Haddix Liquidations, this is super cool. They sell pallets of merchandise from all types of major retailers. The liquidation merchandise can be overstocked items, customer returns, discontinued items, and so on. Their customers are people who resell, which includes people like eBay sellers, small stores, maybe selling on Facebook Marketplace, and flea market sellers. Samantha bought a few pallets to sell as a hobby a while back, but soon realized she was able to make money at it. So we're going to learn about her story and how their company started. We invited Samantha on the show today to talk about Haddix Liquidations, to share their story and to give our audience some valuable insight into the company she and her husband lead in West Virginia. Samantha, take a minute, fill in some gaps from that very brief intro that I gave, and give us a little behind the curtain look into your company.
Sure. So we started as a hobby, like you said, and we were driving to Ohio to buy the pallets. We were doing that every weekend. When we were in Ohio, we kind of started looking around and realized that we knew people and from West Virginia that was driving so far to buy their pallets.
Yeah.
So that's when we decided to look into selling by the pallet instead of the individual items. Put a lot of work into just figuring the whole system out. We didn't really have any business experience. My husband put a lot of time into finding the right people to work with. So we decided to give it a shot. And of course, when we got all of our ducks in a row, per se, is when COVID really took over. So not only were we trying this new adventure, we were doing it in the middle of a pandemic.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So it made it a little more challenging.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Samantha, give us a mental picture, if you will, of what you're talking about. When you're saying pallets, describe what a pallet, I mean, we all know what a pallet, of course, is, but when you're buying pallets of goods, what does that look like?
Sure. So there's plenty of variants. You can get pallets of home decor, domestic items, housewares, toys. You're going to see a big mixture on each pallet. You can have anywhere from, depending on size, you can have anywhere from 10 to 15 items to, 1,000 items on a pallet.
So these are wooden pallets, and on top of them are stacked boxes, and they're all shrink wrapped. So, I mean, it looks like, from the things that I've seen just doing my
Yeah,
research on what you're doing, these could be like 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet tall, stacked on a pallet, shrink wrapped. How does somebody know what's in the pallet?
sure. So sometimes you just don't. Sometimes it's pretty self-explanatory. You can walk around the pallet, you can get an idea of what the items are, but sometimes in the middle, you just don't know what's in there.
Yeah, it seems to me like it's kinda like a cross between the old-fashioned grab bag when you got like a dollar, you spent $1 on this bag and you had no idea what's in it, and, Storage Wars, where you buy a storage container, rip the lock off and you find out what the heck you just bought. It sounds
Yeah.
kinda like that, but there's more into it. Obviously, you have some degree of knowledge on that. One thing that I thought was very interesting is you guys had an auction recently, or a sale recently, of a pallet that had nothing but like these 5 gallon buckets of laundry detergent, like Tide and Gain and stuff. That was super cool. Tell me a little bit about that story.
Yeah, so the um the laundry detergent buckets, we get those and we sell those per bucket. So we get those and there's around 44 buckets of laundry detergent,
Nice.
5 gallon buckets.
That's a lot of laundry detergent.
So yes, it is. And we get those in Tide and Gain, and they're really nice. They're really helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so let's get down to brass tacks, Samantha. Talk a little bit about. I always ask people, give us your 30-second pitch for Haddix Liquidations. In other words, what is it you tell people that you do there?
So what we do is we sell pallets of merchandise to individuals to allow them to resell. Our goal is to sell at around 28% of retail price, to where they're able to take it and sell at 50 or 60% of retail, whatever um, they desire. We try to get a little bit of everything for everyone. We try to do tool pallets, toy pallets, home decor, just something that would please everyone. Um, and if you're not interested in reselling, a lot of people come and buy to get the one or two items they want to keep for themselves, but they will sell the other items to be able to get the items they wanted for free.
Yeah. Oh, that's super cool. Wow. That's really neat. I love that business model. Now, do you guys have a storefront there in Nutter Fort? Talk a little bit about your location.
Sure. So we do. We are actually in the old RG Honda building in Nutter Fort, just right down from the park.
Mm.
We have a big parking lot. So, and my big question that I get a lot is, how do we load these pallets?
Yeah.
So my husband has a forklift and he loads them right in if you have a truck. We've had people with tiny little cars and they just break them down and make multiple trips to fit everything in.
Yeah, that's
So
super cool.
there's
So,
definitely a way for everyone.
yeah, that's great. Samantha, what would you say is the thing you're most excited about for your company, Haddix Liquidations, right now?
Right now, I'm most excited to get back to normal and to learn how to run a normal business um, without the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to be able to do normal things that typically we wouldn't have done in the past year.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about your background, because when I learned that you were a nurse by training, I thought that was really interesting. That's typically a very lucrative type of career path. And here you are, you're doing Haddix Liquidations full time now. Talk a little bit about that journey and how that came about.
So it was just kind of accidental.
Mm.
I was going to start Haddix Liquidation, give it, a few weeks, a month, and maybe do it just on the weekends, get someone to help me, and then continue to work full time. It didn't really work like that. Once we started, we were just continuously busy. I was busy more than just on the weekends. So it really took 100% of my time to run it. And I just realized that I really had a passion for it. I really enjoyed it. Um,
Yeah, that's awesome. How I guess my thought that I keep thinking about is, you're fulfilling a need in the marketplace, right? You open your doors, you get this thing cranking, and you're busy. You got customers almost immediately. What is that need you feel that you're serving there in the marketplace?
I feel like it does multiple things. I feel like it gives people in the community ways to make extra money.
Yeah, that's
And then on the other hand, it gives people in the community, people were so uncertain about leaving their homes and things. It gives them a chance to, buy from Facebook Marketplace and different things without leaving their home.
yeah, that's pretty interesting. And you think that that business model long term is going to be an opportunity for you?
I do. I
Yeah.
do. This is new in this area, but it's not so much new.
Yeah.
Some brokers that we work with have done this for 15, 20 years.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. What
Yeah.
is you talk about this area, what is the geographic market that you serve? Where are your customers coming from?
So we've had customers from Charleston, from Pittsburgh, Ohio. Um, we've definitely had customers from all over.
Really? Driving to Nutter Fort, West Virginia.
Yes.
That's super cool. I love that. Do you have employees?
No, not at this time. It's
It's
just
ba
my
you you and your husband, and, his name is Jason.
yes.
That's awesome. So you guys work together. What's that like, working as a team and, having your spouse working in the business with you? What's that like?
Well, it has its days, I'm sure. No, you know what? It's great because there's just, of course, he's not doing this part of it. He's more of behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Um, I'm good at this part, and he's good at holding things together behind the scenes. So it definitely takes both of us, and I couldn't imagine it trying it without him for sure.
Yeah. So when did you start this company then?
So we started softly in February of 2020.
Okay, good. And then
We
what
had our sell in Nutter Fort at our building in May.
wow, okay. So yeah, you were right, you were starting the the soft launch, if you will, of your company right before the real full brunt of the pandemic and the closure and the lockdown and everything happened. What would you say has been your best business moment since you've been in business now, 15, 16 months?
Um, the best business moment that I've had, gosh, there's been so many. Um, I think just seeing people get excited over something during COVID,
Yeah.
feeling like they had opportunities, and just for that minute when they were like picking up their pallet or, finding awesome stuff in it, that all the craziness in the world didn't matter right then.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. Talk, I want to expand on that question. When you say people find something unexpected in a pallet, describe what that would look like. Give us a little glimpse into that.
Um, One example, it was a Walmart pallet, and a guy got it. I don't think he really knew a lot about what was in it, and it had over 50 tablets, um, like the iPad, the Walmart brand iPad tablets,
Yeah.
um, just tons of electronics like that.
Wow.
So things
It,
like
it's so like, what does a pallet typically run? Like a pallet like that one you're describing. I mean, what does that cost?
that. Something like that was around 550.
$500, $550, and he's got 50, tablets in there. That's
Yeah,
pretty.
plus numerous other items, numerous.
That's cool. Yeah, that's super neat. So on the flip side of that, what's been your worst business moment? Take us to that place of your worst experience and tell us that story.
Um, my worst experience, probably just kind of dropping the ball on, having a sale and not realizing that I was going to be as busy as I was going to be. Um, Selling out before half the people even got through the door
Oh my god.
that waited for hours.
What?
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So those are probably the darkest. things that you beat yourself up over, even though you really didn't have much control over it.
It's actually one of those good problems to have, right?
Yeah.
You goofed up so much it was a giant success. Well, all right. So what's the takeaway from that experience?
So I just learned to arrange things a little better.
Hmm.
Um, I learned to let people sign in at the door. I learned to give previews of, hey, we only have 20 pallets this week, or, at this sale today, just to kind of put it out there and make it a little more known.
Yeah, that's great. It's great that you're learning from those experiences. Just a year into this, and you're really becoming a seasoned entrepreneur. I could see it. That's super cool. Well, Samantha, tell us a little bit about how the process works. In other words, are you open, all every day, regular business hours? You mentioned the word sale a couple of times. Talk a little bit about how the process works.
So we have two different types of sales. And this all stems from having to do something a little different. We have what's called a commit to buy sale, where I'll do a video of all the pallets. And then at a certain time of day, I'll post pictures of each individual pallet. And the first person that would comment that they want it has 24 hours to pay for it and pick up.
Wow.
Um, and then the other type of sale that we have that we're just trying to get back into it this summer is the in person, where you would come wait in the parking lot for us to open. We have a sign in sheet that you sign in. If you're first on the list, you're first through the door. And you would just come in and it has a price tag on it.
Hmm.
You pull the tag and it's yours.
Wow. And is there a description of what potentially is in the pallet, or how does that work?
No. So the the
You have
best
to
thing
look through
you
like,
have is your eye.
say that again. I kind of stepped on you there.
That's okay. The best thing that you really have is your eyes to kind of tell
Okay.
and see it.
So typically these are like overstocked items, or they might be returns, customer returns, discontinued items, those kinds of things. And so you're able to see through the clear shrink wrap cellophane, if you will, and see what might be in there. Boxes. There might be a string trimmer, or there might be a gas grill or something that they're in boxes, and you can kind of just see what's in there, decipher if that's what you want to bid on. You kind of think about the value, right? And you say, yes, that's a good bargain for me.
Yeah. So when I'm buying the loads, I don't get to see them. Typically, sometimes I'll see pictures, but not usually. I just at this point I know a little bit about what's what.
Hmm.
Um, and now my customers, yes, they get to see a little bit through the wrap. I have a lot of customers that really know what they're doing now, and they'll see a couple of items and know, this is the palette we want. Um,
That's awesome. That's super cool. You're almost creating a whole new industry here in West Virginia with this liquidation business. I love it.
yeah.
I think it's super cool. I want to take a second, Samantha, just to mention our sponsors for Positively West Virginia, and they include the State Journal, WVNews.com, and Interaction Media. The support we receive from these West Virginia companies allow us to highlight the great, incredible things happening throughout the great state of West Virginia. Our guest once again today is Samantha Haddix. She's the owner, along with her husband Jason, of Haddix Liquidations in Nutter Fort, West Virginia, right there in Harrison County. Samantha, let's get right back to it. What's the vision that you have for your company, Haddix Liquidations, long term? What's that look like?
So long term, I just want to uh, continue to focus on our customers for sure, their needs, listening to what they want to see, trying new programs with different retailers. I want to keep the same base and the same values, but also try new things as far as programs and stuff in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like you have a pretty awesome business and a great experiment going at the same time, which is super cool.
Yeah.
How do you attract new customers?
So we advertise a lot on Facebook, is where I try to put every single thing that we do, I put on there for everybody to see. I think word of mouth is a big thing. People see people selling stuff and they want well, I want to see this, and I want to, and I have so many people that they'll come in and they'll look at the pallets for sometimes months before they actually decide to buy one.
Mm, really?
And yeah, because I think they're just so, it's so new, and it's nerve wracking not knowing,
Yeah.
but it's also so enticing too.
Yeah, they're a little bit curious, it sounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, looking around. I can, I think about like the auction business. The auction business. I have a couple of friends in the auction business, and that we used to have these live auctions, right? Where you'd have an auctioneer and they would call it the bids. Now everything has moved online. And I think that there's not going to be any going back to the old way. I mean, I could be wrong, but it seems like the online model works so great. And what you're doing is kind of a hybrid of that. You're selling things. You're finding the bargains yourself, right? You and your husband are scouring. You have connections, you have relationships, and you're doing it in bulk and quantity. So now you've got this great supply, and now your job is to really pass those savings on to your customers now, right?
Sure.
This is super cool, and I think that's really neat. What's one of the biggest challenge you face right now?
Um, I think right now, one of the biggest challenges that I'm facing, and I know that I've mentioned this before, but kind of figuring out how we're getting back to normal.
Yeah.
Trying to compare my sales for this June to last June, and it's just not knowing how things are going to be. Um, and it's, everything is still great, but it's, I want to have enough merchandise for people. I don't want to run out. I don't want to order too much. So I think, just even though we've been in business for a year, it almost feels like we're starting over,
Mm.
and kind of knowing where we're at.
Yeah. Well, this your first entrepreneurial venture? Is this the first business you've owned?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're learning some amazing lessons, right?
Yeah.
Probably
Yes.
probably things you never thought in a million years you would be learning about. But I like the fact, honestly, that that you started this business when you did, because it was in a tumultuous time. It was a lot, an area or a time period, a season, if you will, of tremendous change. Every business was having to adapt and figure out new ways of doing business, and you opened your business right in that time. So this might be the new normal. Who knows, right? But you're figuring it out, and I love the fact that you're listening to your customers and having your finger on the pulse. Being a nurse, you can identify with that. Having your finger on the pulse of your customers and what they're thinking. Tell us a little bit about your background. Were you born and raised here in West Virginia?
So I was born and raised in Montgomery, West Virginia. I moved up here to be with my husband about 13 years ago. I went to nursing school up here, Salem.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's very cool. So one of the missions that we have, Samantha, is to inspire and equip um, people, to stay here in West Virginia, especially our young people. We hear about our population shift and young people leaving the state in a rapid manner, and we're trying to encourage people to build companies here, to start something. You can really create a future for yourselves, change your family tree, if you will. What's your thought on that now, a year and 15 or 16 months into owning your own business and really creating your own pathway? What are some thoughts you have on that?
I say do it. I say, if there's anyone that has ever had a thought, go for it. We are prime examples. We had no experience, no idea what we were doing. And it's really been a life changer for us. It has opened so many different doors to opportunities. And I just say do it. Um,
Yeah.
this is a great place. West Virginia is a great place
Why do you,
to do.
why do you think that is?
I think number one, because of the people.
Mm,
Um, the people are just, our customers are amazing. And I, I'm not just saying that because they're our customers, but, just the people that we meet, just the people that come, to see how we're doing, just the people that come to cheer us on. And, you know, it's just next to none.
yeah, that's really cool. I like that. you know, What's one thing, Samantha, that you do every day that you think contributes to the success you're having right now?
Um, I interact. I interact with customers. I interact with potential customers. That's my biggest thing. That's what I do every single day. Even if not at the shop, you know, doors aren't open today, I'm still interacting. I'm still talking to people, explaining to people about the pallet buying process,
Mm,
sending them pictures of upcoming stuff, or I interact daily with everyone.
yeah, that's great. One thing that's coming to mind as you're listening to your customers and talking to them, what are some of the items that are most popular? What are people really gravitating towards?
Well, it depends on the time of the year. Of course, you get into October, November, toys. Toys are a big thing because of Christmas. The past couple of months, it's been outdoor patio furniture, pools, grills, things of that nature.
Yeah, so it's kind of seasonal. So you always have something happening, right? You probably
It,
always have the laundry detergent type, consumables that people need to run their households, but then seasonal buying patterns emerge.
sure.
Mm.
We always try to keep the laundry detergent. There's been a couple of times where we weren't able to get it due to just facility issues a few months back. But yeah, we always try to keep that. We always try to keep single items for people that may not be interested in buying a whole pallet
Yeah. So,
also.
so that's the other question I had, with regard to the pallet business. You're selling pallets, like you have to buy the whole pallet, but you also have an area where you can buy single items. Talk a little bit about that. I should have mentioned that earlier.
Sure. So we try to keep, we have a couple of bins. We have dollar bins, $2 bins, or of course, everything in it's a dollar. And we also try to keep just individual items that people may want to buy if they stop in. We're in a high traffic area. We get a lot of people that just come in and they're curious, and they don't want to buy a whole pallet, but they're definitely interested in buying. So we keep that also.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's one book, Samantha, or even maybe a podcast that you're listening to that you'd recommend for aspiring entrepreneurs?
Oh, I can't remember the name. So she's the CEO of Cinnabon,
Yeah.
and she had a book. And I do apologize. I had her name and I can't remember it. But anyway, you could look that up. And she is just amazing. She kind of started where we did, at the bottom, not a lot of knowledge. And now she's just a very powerful businesswoman.
Yeah, that's awesome. We'll find the name of that book and make sure that it's up there. Is it Cat Cole? I think may have been Cat.
Yes.
I can't think
Yes.
of the book, but it's Cat Cole. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
make sure we get that book up there. We have a section on our positivitywv.com under the resources tab where folks can go get all the recommended books over the last several years and buy those books with a click of a button. So that's pretty cool too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Samantha, we've covered a lot in this interview in just a short time. I feel like we got a really good sense of what Haddix Liquidations is all about and how you guys operate, and I think it's super cool. Is there anything else you think our listeners should know about your story or about Haddix Liquidations?
I think that they should know that don't ever feel afraid to stop in, message our Facebook page, because we do get a lot of people that, I'll hear asking questions in the community. They're not familiar. Just please feel free to call us. Our numbers are, on our signs. We will answer any questions. We'll walk through with you, to make you feel as comfortable as possible when you're buying the first time, for sure.
Yeah, and folks are obviously welcome if they're new to this pallet buying. You can come down and stop by every week for months if you want, and just check it out. And then when you're ready to buy, Samantha will help you close that deal. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we close out our time here, Samantha, how can our listeners best learn more about Haddix Liquidations? You mentioned your Facebook page. If you have a website, you can shout that out, and then even maybe even get in contact with you. What's the best
Sure.
way?
So our best way is our Facebook page. It's Haddix Liquidations. That is our most, we don't have a website now. So the Facebook page is the best way to communicate with us, or also just see the postings of our upcoming sales and what we have available at the time.
Yeah, that's awesome. We'll make sure we have links to all that up on the Facebook Live and then in the show notes section of the podcast as well. Samantha, I just want to say it's been a real honor to have you on the show today. I've never had a business like yours on the podcast before. I think it's super cool what you're doing. And I just want to encourage you to keep up the great work. You're well on your way to creating a liquidation empire there in Nutter Fort, West Virginia.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate you all having us on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, that's a wrap on another episode of Positively West Virginia. Positively West Virginia is brought to you by the State Journal, WVNews.com, and Interaction Media. As we continue on our journey to help share positive stories of companies and people doing amazing things all across the Mountain State, just like my new friend Samantha Haddix of Haddix Liquidations, our hope is that we in some way equipped you and inspired you with her business story today. If you or someone you know would be a great guest on the show, drop us a line on our website at positivelywv.com. And of course, we appreciate your comments, encouragement, and reviews of all of our different products out there. And we encourage you to share these stories on your social media channels as well to help us get the word out there. And be sure to check out our weekly show, the Positively West Virginia Small Business Mastermind. It's every Friday from 11 a.m. to noon, where we bring together a panel of business experts from around the state each week to help small business leaders win. Positively West Virginia is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. You can learn more about our mission of advancing small business and entrepreneurship in West Virginia at positivelywv.com. On behalf of our entire Positively West Virginia team and Interaction Media team, including our producer today, Mr. Hampton Hill, until next time, I'm your host, Jim Matuga. Stay positive, West Virginia.